Guys, welcome to the Saddle Cartel Success Series. We got another one for you today. We got another group member, a guest, Miguel Luna, and man, he killed a stud buck. And we're gonna get the story, get the details, and we're gonna have a little fun along the way. So, how are you, man?
Man, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing real good, real good. Like I said, we talked a
Awesome.
little bit before this, and it's a heck of a story. And I want to throw out. We'll talk about it, I'm sure, some more, but on the group on your post where you shared this book, you shared an awesome video that goes along with it too. So as the listeners are hearing this, when they get done, I urge everybody to go check out that video because it's a sweet video. And there's some things whenever I watched it, I was like, man, that was you threaded the needle on that arrow, all kinds of different stuff, but
Yeah.
it was cool. It was a good
Yeah.
video. I loved it. But before we dive into it, tell us a little bit about you. How you got started in hunting, where you live, where you hunt. Give us the breakdown of those things.
Okay, cool. Yeah, my name's Miguel Luna. Like you said earlier, I'm 43 years old. I reside in North Texas, North Central Texas. I'm kind of north of Dallas. So,
And we won't hold that
te
against you too much.
yeah, Texas born and raised, man. I grew up in a family that didn't really hunt. My father didn't hunt, fished. So I was being a kind of a rambunctious boy, I was always doing stuff outdoors. And then my grandfather, he hunted some, and that's kind of where I learned a lot of the outdoors was hunting and fishing with my grandparents. And but they were never deer hunters. They just kind of squirrel hunted and rabbit hunted. So we'd walk through the woods with a 410 and squirrel and rabbit hunt.
Sure.
And back then we didn't know that you had to have hunting license and stuff. And as a kid, I didn't know those kind of things. So
Ain't that
we
the
just
truth?
kind of went and did what Grandpa did, right? And he was a World War II veteran, and he grew up along the Red River, which is Texas Oklahoma border,
Hmm.
and so that's kind of where I broke my teeth at was along the river there,
That's
being in the
awesome.
woods. So I didn't really get into whitetail hunting until I had met a really good friend of mine, a mentor of mine. He's an older gentleman, and we met at the lake fishing. And man, he drugged me all around. He was a successful guy, didn't have any children, and kind of took me in as a son, really. And fortunate for me, like I said, he was financially able to do those kind of things to where my household wasn't. And so he showed me a different side of life. And back then, they had day leases were advertised. That was pretty common. You could get a newspaper, and the farmers and ranchers would lease their property out by the day for usually it was about $50.
Oh,
And
cool.
so my buddy Troy would get in the newspaper, and we'd find somewhere pretty local, that had a farm or ranch that they would lease out, and we'd go over there and he'd pay for a few days, and we would hunt. And those day leases were a lot of times they were pretty hunted out, and
Yeah.
a lot of times you just sat and watched birds. And I'll never forget the first time I shot my first deer was a doe, and we were on a day lease, and we just hunted the weekend. And Troy called he had a small fiber optics company, and he called the guys. He said, I'm not coming back until this kid gets a deer. And we ended up staying like 2 extra days, and finally we got a doe. And that was my first doe that I ever shot. And I was probably about, I'd say probably 14 years old, 13 or 14. And then after that, me and Troy traveled all over the place, man. We were doing day leases. He was able to get us on a bunch of leases in the area all over Texas, South Texas. And but we were just kind of your random hunters, right? Go
Yeah.
out, sit in a box blind, or sit on a field edge, and didn't really understand deer hunting. And honestly, I've hunted off and on all those years up until now, and I didn't and I always was an outdoorsman, and had mentors. I got a good friend of mine, Tim Williams, that got me into archery when I was about 16. He owned a taxidermist shop, and he ran a bow shop as well. And Tim got me into shooting a bow. And once I started shooting a bow, I never went back to a gun. And I'll still shoot a gun today, but varmint hunting or something like
Sure.
that, shoot
Yeah.
some pigs. But when I'm after whitetail, I don't touch the gun. And I've even got my kids now to where like, Yeah, gun's too easy for you guys. I
Yeah.
had two of my kiddos kill some pretty nice bucks last year, and I told them, hey, it's a bow from now on, man. So they're gonna have to break their teeth on that. But
Dude.
yeah, so I kind of learned a lot from those guys that I had in my life. And and I hunted, and like I said, I had some woodmanship to me, but not the detail that I thought I had until here recently. Um, I just kind of always hunted creek crossings,
Mhm.
field edges, and never really understood whitetail until just years of being frustrated, right? And then
Sure.
finally, one day it kind of clicked. And not saying that I'm any expert by any means. I learn all the time, and I feel like a lot of times I just get lucky. But yeah, that so to kind of go back, I had mentioned I got kids. I've got 8 kiddos.
Woo!
So I've got 5 boys from my first marriage, and then I remarried, and I've got 3 step kiddos that I've
That's
taken
awesome.
on, and but for us, we don't call them step kids, right? They're my
No,
kiddos, and
absolutely.
they're mine 100% of the time, besides when I'm at
Absolutely.
work. So, um, a few of them like to hunt. The younger ones are really into it, right? My
Yeah,
youngest is 10, and then I've got 2 13-year-olds, a boy and a girl, and then I've got a 16-year-old that's into it. The older ones kind of really don't care for it. They're kind of doing their own thing,
sure.
but those little ones are competitive. They're
Yeah.
extremely competitive and they love it. And my 2 older boys, they hunted a little bit when they were younger, so we've always kind of had some places to hunt. Like I said, I broke my teeth on the Red River on public land, and never had any success there. I just wandered through the woods. Like I said, my dad didn't hunt, so when I was young, he would take and basically take me to the river and drop me off, and he'd sit there and fish and wait for me to come back at dark. And I'd wander through the woods as a kid with a lever action Marlin 30-30, and sneak around. Shot a lot of pigs, and like I said, once I got 16-year-old, about 16 or so, and got a bow. Actually, I got my first bow when I was about 14, and it was a Browning Micro Midas we got at a pawn shop, and shooting probably 30-inch aluminum arrows,
Half
and,
bent, half
and
bent.
just mix match broadheads, whatever you had in the box. Didn't know if they were sharp, and like I said, I hunted that public there in my area along the lake, and killed a ton of pigs, and
Dude,
so that was always fun, and
that's
I was hooked
awesome.
on the bow.
That's
And
awesome.
then
And cutting your teeth down there like that, and then to take it back, um, how just valuable it is having those mentors like that. It's kind of, I won't say it's dying because everybody, if they have kids, everybody wants to get their kids involved and do the best they can. But to have that mentor that not is just taking you out and just sitting you down and hoping you have it, but actually teaching you, like I said, that woodsmanship and the small game hunting and just knowing different trees and different things. I mean, that's kind of just a lost art. And I'm just as guilty as the next person. I fall into the routines of we hunt the same food plots and the same stands, and whenever I really have to, venture off and try to use good woodmanship, I still struggle at times for
oh
sure.
yeah,
And my uncle's that person for me. He's that guy. I owe so much to him. But when you have those people in your life that can help you, teach you the way and things, dude, it's such a blessing. And it sounds like you had a couple of really good ones there, and like you get to pass that on to all your kids, and that's going to be a sight to see. And hopefully, your kids are young, so I don't know what the social media presence is, but if I would love to see some of the stuff they've killed and stuff, and the enjoyment and the satisfaction, and the happiness that it brings. That's a big part of it, and we all enjoy that a lot. So, but
that little video I put on about 4 years ago. I was like, hey, I want to start video, and just
mhm,
so I can capture some of these moments, and always have something to look back on, because I don't have any
absolutely,
videos from my childhood, and I wanted
absolutely,
that for my kids. So we created a little YouTube channel. We call it Keep 'em Outdoors, and the whole purpose was keeping children outdoors, right, and keeping the
oh,
kids
absolutely,
busy outdoors and teaching them.
absolutely,
And we kind of played around with that, and it's been fun. The kids really enjoy it. They'll be at the house, and they just put YouTube on and sit there and watch themselves off video,
that's
the whole
awesome.
time. And I get a kick out of that. But going back to the woodsmanship, my buddy Tim, like I said, he owned an archery shop.
Hmm.
He's a he's a heck of a hunter, man. he's killed a lot of great deer, and he's strictly bow hunting. We crack jokes about people that use guns and stuff all the time, and
Right.
he's got two sons that are my age, and we always crack on them, because they'll pull the gun out every once in a while. It's
Yep.
like, oh man,
Yep.
you're going backwards,
Cheating
and
them. Cheating them.
but yeah, yeah. So Tim was an extraordinary trapper, and when I was younger, I got to run with Tim trapping and stuff. So that was really really neat to understand animals and like how
Yeah.
they moved, and all animals kind of move similar, right?
Yeah,
They all
and
use heart.
that's an awesome tool. Like my dad taught me how to trap at a young age, and so I grew up running some trap lines and stuff. It's getting a little bit of a lost art, and all the way from fur prices to traveling to get them checked every day. But you're right, the amount of sign that you can read and learn just from running a trap line is amazing. Like I said,
Yeah,
they do a
yeah,
lot of the same things,
yeah.
edge creatures. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's fun. Fun game. I love trapping. It's fun.
It is, and I've always dragged. We still trap a lot. We try to keep the properties. We got some permission properties that we hunt, and we do a lot of trapping once deer season stops, and you can really see the impact that it makes. Especially for
Mhm.
the turkeys.
Absolutely.
Some of the farms that we hunt, man, the turkeys were nil. There were hardly any, and now we've just got flocks of 20 and 30 birds,
Yeah.
that come through, and it's
Same.
pretty neat to see that change. So pretty cool process. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I said I hunted with Tim and them, and we used to shoot a lot of 3D and stuff like that, when I was 16, 17, 18 years old. Of course, I had kids at a young age, had my first
Hmm.
kid when I was 17 years old, and we ended up, living life basically, and the hunting was sporadic. There'd be
Yeah.
some years we didn't have anywhere to hunt, or didn't have the money to really spend on doing that stuff. So just basically trying to be a parent and live
Yeah.
life and work and do grown up
Absolutely.
stuff. And
Absolutely.
I've been fortunate to have some pretty nice permission pieces, and my buddy Troy was always able to get us into some spots. But like I said, the the knowledge just wasn't there. Like I said, for whitetails, I just never put two and two together when it come to deer hunting.
Uh huh.
And then, I remember when the saddle hunting kind of become popular or first started hearing about it, probably about 10 years ago for myself. And
Hmm.
I was just like some of the old guys that I was with, like, oh, I'm never going to do that. That's silly,
Yeah. Yeah.
and about 4 years ago, I bought a saddle off Amazon, and that was the first saddle I bought, just a little cheapo saddle. And I was like, I'm gonna give it a try. Bought it, and it just sat in the shop, and I throw it in the truck, and I bought some climbing sticks,
Hmm.
um, and then and a little platform, and I said, "Yeah, I'll carry it with me, but and I still use that aspect of thinking I'm gonna go set it up like I would a hang on, I'm
Yeah.
gonna set it on a creek crossing or a pinch point, and so I never really used it. I had hang-ons on some of the private places that I hunted, and one afternoon I was sitting in a stand, a hang-on stand on a field edge, and out in the field, there was a little cluster of oak trees. I just happened to see something move in that cluster of oak trees, and I mean, it was a small cluster of oak trees, like the size of of a, a living room or something. Probably 15-foot by 15-foot cluster of trees,
Yeah.
young oaks. And I thought I seen horns, so I pulled my binoculars up, and sure enough, there was a really good buck bedded in there with a doe, and it was during the rut, and he pulled her to that little cluster in the middle of that field, and so that's when I was like, you know what? That saddle's been riding around in my truck for the last 2 seasons.
Yeah. Gonna
I'm gonna
get my
put it
money's worth.
yeah, I'm gonna put it on, and snuck down out of that stand and did a big loop to my truck, and, I tried to go in and you know, sneak in on that buck, and as I did, another buck come running across the field and chased them out and, run them into a tree line, and that's when I moved in, and was like, "Hey, I'm going in with my saddle, and I'm gonna get this guy," there's
Yeah.
hot doe in the area, and man, I clanged them sticks together. The tree I climbed was probably about as big around as a soda pop bottle, and I
Uh
got to the top of it, and the tree was leaning over, and I looked down, I'm only about 6 foot off the ground, and I'm like, "This is retarded." And, it's like, "This is never gonna work," I'd made so
huh.
much noise.
Yeah.
I struggled getting in the tree, and after I got set up, about 10 minutes after I was set, two doe come walking right underneath me, and I thought, wow, it's really working, you know. And I actually seen two little bucks come by that evening, and ever since then I was like, man, this is the way I'm going. And
Well,
like I said, that's been a few years ago, so I've
you know
been
what's
getting
funny about
better.
the yeah, well, what's funny about the saddle game is like I enjoy saddle hunting a lot, and I'm guilty. I honestly, I'll admit that this year I've probably saddle hunted less than I have in the last 2 or 3. And, just because, like I said, I'm just as guilty as the next person, a creature of habit, and I'd run into these lock-ons or a ladder stand that, we have in the same spot for years and hunt the same, feeders or food plots. Um, but they're just a tool. And just
Yeah,
like you just said, when you see that deer locked down or cruising, he's going to bed and to going to feed, and you can see that pattern from maybe your stand, and you think, I need to close the distance another 80 yards. That's where they're valuable. Um, one thing that because we're roughly in the same kind of terrain,
hmm,
what a lot of people don't realize too, and I mean, I'm sure everybody's got their hindrances, but one of our drawbacks is, dude, it's hard to find a good tree at times. We don't
oh
have
yeah,
those big, tall, straight pines, and we have a lot of just different red oaks and white oaks that from the bottom to the top is branches everywhere, and they lean
that's
and
right.
just and it can be really challenging, like you said, to get into an area, find a tree, and then do it quietly enough to where you can get one killed. And that everybody's got their problems, you know what I mean? But
Oh yeah,
it's
for
it's
sure.
not as easy. So I guess what I'm getting at is it's just a tool, and you try to do the best you can with whatever situation is presented to you. And just like you're saying, you busted out and you went over there. But anyways, I went on a little rant there for a sec. Anyways,
No,
but
no, and you're right. Talking about like the oaks and stuff, we have the blackjack oaks and bur oaks,
that's
and that they actually grow limbs all the way down to the ground on the base of the
absolutely,
tree, and
absolutely,
you cannot get through them. I mean, they're
yeah,
like a bush, and so you get a lot of that. And then when you do get in a tree, you might see one that looks like you can get into it and find a little pocket up in the tree. You couldn't shoot 2 foot away from the tree if you wanted to because of
absolutely,
everything around you so thick, and that's even with no leaves on the trees, right?
yep,
There's a lot of thick trees where we're at, and a lot of people, they say, they think, oh, you're from Texas, and they picture South Texas. Where
exactly,
I'm at, we've got
exactly.
small rolling hills. We don't really have a lot of terrain, but we've got a lot of big timber,
Mhm.
pecans, oaks, cedars, a good mix. Now, if you go an hour south of where I'm at, you start running into mesquite flats and stuff like that. But a lot
Yep.
of that was, farmland in the past. But up where I hunt and along the river and stuff like that is really hardwoods, and
Yeah.
it's nice, but it's thick. And if you get into a thicket with briars and underbrush and stuff like that, it can get really nasty really
It's
quick.
tough
And
in a hurry. Yep. Absolutely.
and you don't have anywhere to shoot. It's
Agreed.
close quarter, and it's loud and almost impenetrable at some areas. So
Absolutely.
it can be tough.
Well,
So
I wanna take you back just real quick on something that you said earlier, and you said that at some point in your hunting career, something switched to where you felt like maybe you got a little bit more deadly as far as when it comes to your whitetail. Can you pinpoint what that was? Like, what was it that you maybe learned or picked up on that was like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Just in case there's someone that's out there maybe struggling. Heck, myself, I struggled all year long this year. What's something that maybe you learned or you thought of that you were like, oh, you know what? If I can just apply this, maybe that's going to help me have more success.
So like I said, I've always been a creature of habit, like you said, what we're
Hmm.
taught at an early age or kind of see on these TV shows, really. You sit in a wide open field, or,
Hmm.
somewhere where it's easy to get a shot. And when it really clicked for me was the time I told you I seen that buck, and I made a move with the saddle.
Hmm.
That's when I was like, hey, I'm not, and what made it click was right before that, I had met an older gentleman at a deer show, and I was telling him, I said, "Hey, like, I get these big deer on camera and stuff like that, but really having encounters with older, bigger deers, it's just really doesn't happen very often unless I get lucky. I might see them in a distance, but
Yeah.
they know where those stands are at. And he said, Miguel, let me ask you something. He said, are you hoping or are you hunting? And that's when I really, started thinking like, man, I'm just sitting in a stand hoping that a deer comes by here.
Yeah.
And then I kind of, at that time, I was getting into listening to these different podcasts and seeing groups like the Hunting Public and guys
Yeah.
like that. And I thought, man, these guys are going after them. You can really push the envelope with these animals
Getting in tight.
and
Yeah.
and and getting in and just going after them, whether it's open terrain or not. If you're just sitting in a spot thinking that they're going to come by there, unless you really got a pattern on them. I mean, you've got to go in and find them and really narrow it down. So, man, I changed the whole way I thought about, hunting. And I started doing a lot more scouting because prior to that, you'd put a camera up on a creek crossing or something. And the reality is they're probably not going to come by there every day. And then when
Yep.
you're there, they're going to have some type of inclination that you're in the area
Sure. Step
and you're
behind them
not
all
going
the
to see
time.
them. That's
Yeah.
right. So you're just chasing your tail. And so when I started really putting in scouting, I'd say about 3 years ago, I started really changing the way I hunted and started doing a lot of scouting. And where we're at, like bedding isn't as predictable as maybe some of the eastern and northern states where
Same.
they've got all this terrain.
Yeah.
Like we're
Same.
flat land. These where we're at, a deer can lay down anywhere and hide,
Same.
you
Under
know,
any cedar tree in the next 300 acres.
anywhere. You're
Absolutely.
not going you're not going to pinpoint. Now you may find some areas that they favor, and that's just because they don't get bothered in those areas.
Sure.
When we're talking mature bucks. And so, man, I started diving into thickets and stuff like that. And man, when I would, I'd jump good deer and really seeing what they liked and why they were there. And like everybody says, ask yourself why. Why is he here? Why is he going this direction? And I started doing that, man, and it really started bringing a lot to my eyes of what, learning a whitetail and how they work and maneuver the woods and stuff
Absolutely.
like that.
And
And like I said,
I
I still learn. I still learn. Where I'm at is it's hard hunting. I mean,
absolutely.
luckily we've got a good deer population. The
Sure.
two states that I hunt, there's a lot of deer. I mean, you can go anywhere in North Texas and sit somewhere and you're probably going to see deer.
Yeah.
And luckily we've got a lot of deer, but just like anywhere else, the big ones are hard to find,
Absolutely.
and they've got a lot of hiding places, and
Absolutely.
the terrain's just not there. But I'm starting to learn a lot of things that I'm putting together with what I've learned about terrain and making it work for our areas and seeing what the common denominator is of why deer are doing this. So I'm putting those pieces together and starting to figure out like, hey, it's not the same. Like we don't have mountains here, but they're using this area that is similar to that and the reasons why they're using it, right? So we
Absolutely.
talk about like dry creek beds or little bitty subtle hills,
Sure.
that may have 10 foot of elevation.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Mountains.
they
Oklahoma
Yeah,
mountains.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're going to use that the same almost. Now they could jump up and bounce over it in one leap,
Yeah.
but if they're relaxed, they're going to use that terrain just like they would a 100-foot mountain.
Sure.
And so I'm starting to put those pieces together,
Well,
and man, just more and more encounters, and it's pretty awesome.
no, that's some great advice, honestly. And like I said, something that yeah, I should have called you 3 weeks ago. Are you hoping or hunting? Because man, I need it. That's a good one, really. Because like I said, man, if and what's that old saying? You're doing the same thing, expecting different results. And like I said, everybody does it. Everybody gets caught, and not wanting to push the envelope. I don't want to bust this big buck out of there or whatever it may be. But no, sometimes you do need to be aggressive. And like I said, are you hoping or hunting, and being mobile, that's part of our game. Like at least if you have that in your tool belt, start pushing the envelope a little bit. And so maybe that's something that maybe everybody can take away. I know I can, and maybe apply it and try to get in there a little tighter with them and have some more success. So I like that one a lot. I love that one. Um,
And I want to throw something real quick before
sure.
anybody gets ahead of themselves.
Yeah.
Now, don't overthink it. And I'm an extreme overthinker.
Yeah,
I
same.
kill myself. I
Same.
would probably be 100 times more successful if I didn't have the mindset that I have.
It's
Uh, I
funny.
read, I read really, really deep into it, and I try to figure out, man. And then I've got some buddies that just chew bubble gum and pick their nose, and they're knocking them down, you know,
I can't
baby
tell you.
moose every season. And I'm thinking, why? And it's just because they're just having fun and they're just going with the
Absolutely.
flow, man.
I
And
couldn't tell you
they're
who coined it, but I've heard it several times. They're just big goats. You know, they're not that smart. They're just goats. We like to make this, majestic animal that's got this brain capacity that they can outsmart us and all that stuff, and to where they can to an extent. And it is a challenge, but
oh
they're
yeah,
just, they're just big goats. It's pretty funny. So
yeah.
yeah, you're right. I'm just as guilty of that too, and I think everybody is. If you're passionate about it and you enjoy it as much as most of us do that are here, for if you're here listening to this or whatever, most of us enjoy it, and
Yeah,
we overthink it. We all want to kill this deer, want to kill whatever, and we overthink it, and which leads to all kinds of things, and it's that's why we do it, I guess. So,
that's right. That's
but
right.
well, take us to give us a rundown of the time frame or the date whenever you killed this buck, and let's talk about it. And I want to also, because you mentioned it now, um, did you kill him on public or was this private?
This was private. It was a
Okay,
private farm. Yes,
and
sir.
regardless, it doesn't matter. But what led you to being in the area that you were? As far as, was it some terrain features? What led you into it? Intel. But give us the like I said, give us the when this was, and then let's hear about it a little bit.
Yeah, so for sure. So this is a farm that I hunt in southern Oklahoma. Um, belongs to a good friend of mine.
Okay.
He's given me permission to hunt. And I've actually had access to this farm for about 5 years. But it's in a very rural area of Oklahoma, and
Mhm.
a lot of uh, a lot of everybody there knows each other, you know. So this property's been in this family for over 100 years, and so everybody in the area hunts it. You
Oh,
know,
okay. Yeah.
it's just the good old boy,
They,
you
they
know.
had permission from
Uh,
granddad.
that's right. Their
Yeah.
permission never
Okay.
runs out, you know,
Yes, sir.
4 generations later.
Yep.
So it receives a lot of pressure. You know, and there's no management on the property
Mhm.
whatsoever, as far as like food plots or anything like that, right?
Mhm.
Anything to really benefit. It's just natural. And some of the property's pretty rough. There's a little bit of terrain on the property, not much. There's some dry creek beds and stuff like that. Some pecan bottom flats that are a little opened up, you know, kind of low bottoms on some areas of the property. And and man, I've had a lot of pictures and intel of some really big deer. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest deer I've ever seen on the hoof uh, come in on me on that property. Biggest deer I've ever laid eyes on, as far as you know, in person while in a
Yeah.
stand.
Yeah.
And anyways, always seen good deer in there, but I just never put the time in,
Sure.
just because of the fact that I could be out there and you'd hear somebody driving around or somebody running hog dogs or,
Yeah.
you know, and it just kind of frustrated me really. And I
Sure.
just kind of stayed away. I didn't want to create any issues with family members, you know, for my
Sure.
friend or anything like that. So yeah, if I did go hunt, I just kind of treated it like public, man. I'd go in
Yeah.
and kind of figure out what was going on and make my move and stay to myself, you know.
Yeah.
And so not a lot of work has went into the property. And like I said, for the last couple of years, I've only went in there like maybe one time to go hunt. And last year I went in and killed a little small buck last year. Just went in there and they were talking about selling the property, so I went in there just to go hunt one last time
Sure.
and shot a buck
Yeah.
like the day before Thanksgiving. And this year, with the kids being out of school and stuff, schedule been busy. Uh, we had family coming in for Thanksgiving and stuff like that. So this was 2 days before Thanksgiving this year.
Okay.
Um, and so went in, went in that morning and I hunted a pond bottom that's in there that usually gets a lot of action this time of year. Just a lot of deer kind of funnel through that area. And I've seen quite a few little bucks, which are in the video in the very beginning of the video.
Okay.
The real pretty little pecan bottom, but it's right by the county road.
Yeah.
And, you know, so while I'm watching those little deer, I'm just wondering if somebody's going to drive by in their truck and mow them down, you know? And so that's kind of how it is in that area.
Yeah.
And so I actually I went in there, hunted that morning. It was a little chilly. I think it was probably in the 40s, mid 40s or
Mhm.
so. So it's starting to get cool. We haven't really had a cold front in my area until just like last week.
Yeah,
Last Monday was our first actual, 30-degree temperatures. So went in, hunted that morning, seen a few little bucks kind of cruising around, and they're doing buck things, looking for
sure.
doe and stuff.
Yeah.
And got about 10 o'clock, and that same buddy has a property in Texas as well. And I had set some traps, starting to see coyotes come in, starting to get
Mhm.
that winter time. They're starting to move and
Yeah,
hunt
yeah,
and stuff like that. So I I had set some traps, and I had a camera in the area, a cell cam, and I had noticed that I had caught two coons that morning. And so, you know, being a man of nature, man, I don't like to for anything to have to sit and suffer or anything like
yeah,
that. So
absolutely.
I got down out of the stand and I hauled back towards Texas to that farm and went and dispatched those coons and actually pulled my traps up because I had family coming in and stuff like that. So I didn't want to leave any traps set where I couldn't check them. And so went and did that and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna grab a burger." And I went to a local Dairy Queen and grabbed a hamburger and stuff. And then um, I headed back to the farm. And when I got back to the farm, a buddy of mine's dad had stopped by, and they were going to move some cows and stuff around on that place.
Mhm.
They raise rodeo stock, so they've got
Okay.
bucking broncs and bucking bulls and stuff like that. So they were going to move some cows around, and we're sitting there chatting, and it's like it's 2 o'clock, and I'm looking at my watch, like, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
good seeing you, man. And
Yep.
I didn't really have a plan, but what happened was at the beginning of season, I had put two cameras in there,
Mhm.
first part of October, but you get zero cell reception on that property. There
Oh,
are very few spots you could get any service, even with your cell phone.
yeah.
And there's a dry creek bed that runs in that property. There's actually quite a few of them, but one in particular that just kind of a bigger creek bed. It hardly ever hold. It doesn't ever hold water, but if you get a lot of rain or something, it'll kind of flow through there.
Sure.
And it kind of gets back into some really thick, gnarly stuff. And there's a little bit of terrain. There's a slight hill on each side of that creek bed, and kind of all flows down into a bottom and drains into a big pond back there. And I had set a camera back there because several years back, I had seen a bunch of rubs in an area. So I told myself on the way there, I was like, I really needed to go get that camera just to pull it out of there. I had plans for it in another spot.
Sure.
And I was like, man, I'm just going to get my stuff and kind of work my way back there. And I was going to hunt back there anyways, just because that's where the camera was at.
Yeah.
And I was going to make a hunt in that area, depending on sign.
Mhm.
But on the way there was some areas that I had seen in the past, excuse me. And of course, being this time of year, you're thinking funnels, where are
Mhm.
these deer going to be squeezed through? So there's a couple of washout small ravines and stuff in this, and nothing big, they're
Yeah.
maybe have 10-foot banks on them and stuff like that. And I was like, hey, if a deer's coming through here, he's not going to cross this drop off. He's going to come up around the point of it, so I went eased by that and looking, and sure enough, there's some good trails and stuff coming through there. And I'm thinking, looking around at trees and stuff, and I'm like, man, this would be a good spot. If anything's cruising, it's going to come right around this point.
Yeah.
And and something in me just kept saying, nah, keep going, stick to your plan, And so I go on and go past another spot, and I'm thinking, oh man, there's going to be something come by here this evening,
Yeah.
that this would be a good spot. And the little voice is like, man, stick to your plan. Go to where your camera's at. And like I said, at this point, I hadn't had any pictures or anything because there's no service in there. And still, I haven't, I didn't even pull the camera because when I got to that spot, I finally talked myself into going. I was easing in there, come down the dry creek bed. Got some steep banks there, probably 6 or 7 foot tall banks, on some of it. Some of it, it kind of plains out, but most of it's kind of got some steep banks. So with the wind in my favor, kind of cutting down that creek, I stayed in that creek bed.
Mhm.
And eased up the bank and got in there, and the camera was probably, 40, 50 yards away. And in the distance, I could see a fresh rub. And so I put my binoculars up on it and I thought, man, like that's fresh. Like it wasn't discolored or anything. It was fresh. And,
Yeah.
you could tell it was still wet looking.
Yeah, which
So
is right in the time frame. Like I'm sure it's the same with us. We get a lot of our rut, like in from I'd say the 13th through the 20th or so. And you're starting to get into
yeah,
that last week of there, November and Thanksgiving ish time frame. We have a lot of deer. They're still rutting and rubbing and doing their thing. So just for some
yeah, no,
context
for
there, but
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so then I started looking for a tree. And so I eased up and found a tree and tried to stay as close to the bank as I could. So my thermals, because in that area was pretty shaded and stuff. So I wanted to stay close to that creek bed. And I didn't really have no idea of where the deer might come from, besides using what wind I had. And I didn't think
Sure.
they would come down that creek bed or anything from the direction I
Yeah.
came.
Yeah.
So
But
um,
you were in the game. You knew you were in the game from sign you were seeing.
that's right.
Yeah.
So executed everything perfectly as far as getting set up, man. Really quiet. Got set up in the tree and got my camera, and I just use my phone majority of the time. I've
Hmm.
got a couple of action cams. Starting to use my Insta 360 a little bit,
Yeah.
so by any means, anybody goes to watch the video, like I'm not some professional filmographer or anything like
You're
that. Like
saying
I'm just playing around and just starting to
absolutely.
get the hang of it and really enjoy it because it brings a whole new challenge to it.
Yeah.
And I love it. And last year I missed, I'm going to kind of go back real quick on the filming part of it.
Hmm.
Last year, I missed 3 harvests on film, one being a buck I shot there at Oklahoma. He was out of frame when I
Yeah.
shot, and then, both my kids killed nice deer last year, and at one of them, the battery went dead or the phone ran out of memory is what it was, and it shut off
Yeah.
right before she shot her buck. And the other one, I was just watching the deer, wasn't paying attention to where I was, aiming the camera and missed the whole shot.
Yeah.
And but the what I did was I had held myself accountable for taking my equipment and setting it up every time, regardless of time restraints, whether it being comfortable or what I wanted to do is like, if you're going to do it, you have to do it every
Yeah.
time.
Absolutely.
And so I stuck to that last year, and it takes a lot of time, especially if you do like B-roll. You
Yeah.
have to, set your camera up, and you may walk by the camera, or you're unpacking your stuff, and then you got to stop, or you may have to redo it, or whatever. So it's very time consuming and adds to the mix a whole bunch, and can add to the stress if you stress about
Sure.
it at all.
It does,
And
but
so,
when it all comes together, it's pretty rewarding, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I've got a few on film now, and then whenever so earlier in the season, I kind of botched a shot and I had rolled in late that day and I didn't set it up. And long story short, I had to get the thermal drone situation, all that. But if I would have had that camera set up and potentially got it on film, and seeing where that arrow landed, it could have saved me a lot of time and money and effort and all the things, And so you're right, you got to dedicate to setting it up and doing it, and but
yeah.
it can be a hassle, but it's very beneficial when it all comes together and you put one in the tin ring and you can watch it and relive it. And like I said, your kids can watch it. So on the filming aspect
Oh,
of it, it's enjoyable. It's worth it if you're going to do it.
it's for sure, 100%. So I get set up and I get my camera and everything set up. I've got a small little 3D printed camera arm that I bought
Hmm.
off a guy on Marketplace or something.
Yeah.
And anyways, I got it set up and just sat, and not long after I got set up, I had a young buck come in, and he come in from the area I had kind of suspected that they may come in from. There's a
Hmm.
little rocky knob, just right outside that creek bed. A lot of cedars and stuff that way. And
Hmm.
I thought, oh yeah, they're probably bedded up over there. It's got a little knob that they can bed on with all the cedar cover. And that little deer come out of there and he moseyed around, uh, underneath me, come right underneath me. I actually took a bunch of pictures and stuff with him in the background. And there's one where he looks like he's looking at me, but he wasn't. He never noticed me in the tree, but it looked like we took a selfie together, So, uh, I, you know, eh, when I know I'm not going to kill him, I like to play around
Sure.
a little bit. Of course, I
Sure.
don't want to teach him either, but
Yeah.
I do
They're
push
just
the
big
envelope.
goats. They'll forget.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I try to, I do a lot of that stuff. And a lot of times too, when I get like young bucks around and stuff, I'll grunt and
Yeah,
practice my grunting and just see how they react, right? That
sure.
kind of teaches you. So I do a lot of that stuff. And anyways, I was playing with this young buck and he moseyed off and I could hear some pigs and stuff in the distance, and we got a lot of pigs where we're at. So
Mhm.
you're always going to hear pigs if you're
Yep,
hunting in our area.
same.
And so so I was sitting there and it was starting to get dark and the opposite side of the creek, I guess, would be to the so I was facing north and we had a little bit of a northwest wind and
Mhm.
the creek runs north and south and I had come in from the south and up the creek
Okay.
and little deer had come in from my left, which would have been the west,
Mhm.
and he come in and he eventually caught my ground scent. He got behind me and caught my ground scent and kind of ran back the direction he came. And then but I'm thinking, hey, if something follows his path of travel, they're gonna come in here and they're gonna give me, you know, plenty of opportunity. I didn't have a lot of shooting around him, at the most probably 20 yards, in that little area to where I
Mhm.
could shoot comfortably. And it was pockets, shooting in between trees and
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
through limbs and stuff like
Yep.
that. So as it got dark, um, to the east, I could hear something come down off this little hill, and he was making a lot of noise. It was the typical, older, bigger buck.
Sure.
Like sound like they're dragging their feet. You could
Yeah.
hear the leaves, and I knew instantly when I heard that he had been bedded up on that hillside more than likely, because we haven't been getting a lot of daylight activity. Um, for me, I've noticed that it seemed like they were uh, a lot of nighttime pictures and stuff. So I was thinking they're in rut, but I think they, with the weather and stuff being so warm, I think they were kind of maybe hitting it in the evenings and the mornings, and in the day they were kind of relaxing really, or being bedded up with does. So
Sure. Yeah.
when I heard that noise, sounded like he had gotten up from a bed or so and started coming down that hill, and I kind of had a gut feeling like, okay, this is going to be a better deer,
Yeah,
and
and you're right, they do that, man. It's like they don't need to sneak around the woods, the young bucks, they don't wanna know that they're moving in, trying to scent check a doe because it, pissed the big boy off or whatever. They do that, they make so much more noise, you know what I mean? And
they
you're
do,
right, you can tell.
and yeah, and so I knew it was going to be one, so I kind of get set up and get my camera, and I'm trying to see, through all this timber to see if I can see something, and I caught movement, and I seen horn, and I thought, okay, that's I've got some bone on his head, so I thought
Mhm.
this is going to be a decent deer, and where he'd come down off that little hillside, there was a little bitty uh, runoff, where you could tell water run down the side of that hill. And it's probably like a foot wide and probably a foot deep little cutout on the side of that hill that dumps into that creek bed. And man, he kind of cruised at an angle right to it, and he came right down that. And by that time, I was set. I could tell, he had a pretty wide rack, and
Oh,
I
and
could
he's a
see that he was
stud.
a yeah, I could see there was a
Yeah,
decent deer, right? And I'm
yeah,
thinking, all right, man, like this is what I'm going to shoot if I get an opportunity.
absolutely.
So he was on my offside, so I had to kind of, I just adjusted a little bit and got ready. And man, he came down that creek bed on the opposite side, and as he come up the other creek bed, he kind of stopped.
So
And
is
when you
he
see
kinda
him,
working to your east? Like, he's on the east side of you
um,
now?
he's on the east side of me, and he's coming west.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm facing north and
Yep,
he's coming from the east, kind of the
okay,
northeast, and he come down. And when he got to the creek, he was going to cut straight from east to west across
okay,
that little bitty, that little bitty area there. Um, and he was going the opposite direction that other young buck had come from.
okay.
And, but almost the same, it almost looked like kind of the same travel path or trail, kind of in that same general little alley, it looked like.
Sure.
And, as he hit that creek bed, he come down full steam, but then before he come up the bank on my side, he paused. And in the video, I kind of zoom in on the video, and you can see his antlers sticking, and there's a tree, but it almost looks like he's like maybe he noticed a spot up in the tree or something. Like maybe caught a glimpse of me. I don't
Maybe.
know.
Yeah.
But whatever it was really quick because he
Hmm.
turns his head and he continues on.
Yeah.
And by that time I was ready. And I drew back, camera was in place, made sure I had plenty of screen in case he kept walking. I wouldn't miss him, and man, I bleeped at him, like that. And
Uh-huh.
he didn't pause, he didn't miss a beat. And so as soon as he didn't pause, I was already on him and I shot. Boom, and I seen him mule kick and take off. And as he took off, of course, I had the adrenaline dump, right?
Yeah.
For me,
Well, let me let me
I'm
let me pause you real
always
quick, buddy. Threaded the needle from the video. I was watching. I was like, "Golly, man!" Because it. I don't know what it looked like in the tree, but from your camera angle, I mean, it looked like you had like a softball, and you put it in there now, and like I said, you can just see
it
that lighted knob
so
just get him.
yeah, for thanks to God above, man, I have to send you a little video clip of the tree that I took afterwards, and I'll try to make like maybe a little longer video with some more detail and add that because the video I posted is just kind of like a little short recap of what happened with
Oh,
the
it's a
kill and
great
everything.
video.
So
Yeah,
I want to kind of make a little longer video with some more of the behind the scenes stuff,
sure.
and so. Uh, when I hit him, he donkey kicked and he took off, and I'm thinking, oh man, but it was just getting that daylight to where everything's gray and everything blends, so your eyes
Absolutely.
start playing tricks on you.
Yep.
And I didn't realize it at the time, but there were so many limbs on that dead cedar tree that I'd shot through. I mean, I seen one kind of predominant limb,
Yeah.
and he was just kind of over the top of it, and like I knew that limb was there, but he takes off, I see him kick and he takes off, but then as he gets, he takes off and you can't see him once he's gone. He's got,
Mhm.
the timber's so thick and he runs out and I know there's like a little bitty opening, probably like a 20-yard opening with some brush and stuff up there. Um, right before that knob that I was telling you about that I think that little buck was, coming from. And anyways, I could kind of hear that's where he was at. And I could hear him stop and he was snorting, you know,
Okay. Yeah.
and I thought, oh man, I got sick. And I just thought, I missed him,
Doubt started
because
setting in.
he, he's up there, he's blowing at me now. He got away, he turned around and now he's snorting. And I immediately thought, man, I skimmed his back or I skimmed his belly, or I hit him bad. And
Hmm.
so I get in my backpack and I pull my headlamp out and I had a red light and I shine it over there to look at my arrow just to, the Knox lit up. And I see this cedar tree and it's like, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
What did I just
I hit
do?
a, I hit a limb and I skimmed his back or something. And now he's over there
Yeah.
blowing at me. I screwed this up, but I seen him kick. And
Yeah.
in my mind, I seen the arrow sink through him. And I
Yeah.
do this to myself all the time.
Yep.
When you shoot,
Everybody
you
does.
see it.
Yep.
I mean, I seen it sink, and but then I started doubting because he's over there
Yep.
blowing,
Everybody
and
does.
so I kind of get on my camera and I'm like talking to myself, and at the time, and I didn't include this in the video, but I thought, you know, um, I think I missed this deer because now looking at this tree, there's limbs everywhere, and he's back there blowing, and so I'm like, I need to climb down and look at my arrow. And so I eased down out of the tree real quiet, and I packed everything up because I mean it's nighttime, and completely oblivious to my camera that I was there to get. Still
Hmm.
there. I haven't gotten it. It's
Shoot.
still not. And I don't know. Maybe you guys know, but I don't know if those cell cams still take pictures, even though they're not sending them. So I'm excited to pull the SD
Yeah.
card out of it because it may have pictures on it. It just doesn't have
Yeah.
the bandwidth or the signal to send them. So
I know the
uh,
Tacticams do that. You can go pull the
okay, so that's
if
what.
you have an external SD or sorry,
Yeah.
yeah, SD, you can pull
Uh-huh.
it and there'll still be photos on it.
Okay, cool. So that's what I got, and
Yeah,
so
sweet.
hopefully there's some pictures of that buck on
That'd be
there.
awesome.
So that'd be cool, and maybe even seeing him run off because he
Yeah.
wasn't too far from where the camera was,
Yeah.
and so it might have caught him coming through there. And so I get down, I pack up, and I just take my time because if I did hit him, I want to give him time.
Sure.
In no rush. I had to wait for my adrenaline dump because I don't want to climb a tree in a hurry like that,
Yeah.
in the dark,
Yeah.
fall and break my back or something.
Yeah.
And so I, I kind of sit up there, replay everything in my head, and then and I think to myself, man, I just need to look at the phone.
Yes, like, did you ever go back and watch it?
Oh, I did. And that's when I was like, oh man, I smoked this dude. Zoom in, and you can see that knot was disappearing. And
So in
and I hit
hindsight,
him.
him up there blowing, he's probably pushing blood out through his
That's
lungs,
exactly
yeah.
that's exactly what he was doing, right? He
Yeah.
was struggling for
Yeah.
oxygen. And
Excellent.
so climbed down, go look at my arrow, got good blood on my arrow. So I knew it was a great pass through. And I was like, well, you know, I hit him a little back. I'm trying to train myself to shoot a little further back now because um man, I can really sink them and do some heart shots.
Mhm.
But I shoot a big mechanical, uh, and so I was telling myself like I don't want to push it. Like maybe I've been lucky all these years of really making good shots, and I
Mhm.
want to, if I hit lungs, if I can hit that pie plate, they're dead.
Sure.
So I'm trying to train myself to shoot a little back away from that shoulder and that elbow, to where
Yeah.
I always try to sink it right, just skim that shoulder, and
Yeah.
so I did, and I did that, and it worked out perfect, man. And I was like, man, I'm just going to kind of ease in and start following some blood and be quiet and try to sneak in, and it was apparent right off the bat, man. I mean, there was just in the video, I just show a couple of little spots, but I mean, there was blood
Plenty.
at the shot. There was blood at the shot. There was blood sprayed on trees. The leaves were just covered in
It's
blood all the way
exactly what
to
you want to
them.
see.
Exactly. I mean, it was an easy track. He probably ran about 50 yards and he
Dang.
ran right back through that little clearing. I follow the blood trail. He goes through that little clearing and kind of turned towards that knob, which makes me think too that like I may have been right about them using that little knob as an area.
Oh,
And I'm
originally. Yeah.
Yeah, originally, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, he went that way. And that's kind of where I anticipated deer to come from, because and I tell you what, and I don't want to push this on anybody, but
Uh-huh.
scouting that area a couple years ago when I first found the rubs a few years back in that area, right on the side of that little knob, and there's a couple of big rocks and stuff on this knob, and it's not a big knob by any means. I mean, it may be 30 foot up gradually, and
Mhm.
it's not really big, maybe the size of a house,
Yeah.
like a regular size home. So it's not like a mountain or anything. It's just kind of a little knob. And
Yeah.
I found two balloons in there,
Oh, yeah.
the not mylar balloons,
Trey will be
and
happy to hear that. He's a believer.
yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now, man, when I get into Bucky areas
Yeah.
with a little bit of terrain, and like I said, we don't have terrain, but when I get into Bucky areas that have, uh, you know, whether it be a dry creek bed or something like that, man, you will find those balloons in like a briar thicket or something close to that, and you're thinking like, this is where a buck would lay,
People swear by it. I guess I
and
haven't been
and
fortunate enough to hunt anything like that or find one, but people swear by it, them little
I,
thermal hubs and just dropping them down in there.
I'm telling you, and how would that balloon even make it in that stuff? I mean, it has to get to this canopy of trees
Yeah.
and how to
Yeah.
crawl its way up under this briar patch. It's pretty interesting. I don't know if there's
Yeah.
anything to it, but I'm
Well,
starting to
hey,
become
if
more
it
and more
works
of a
for you,
believer.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's right.
Historical.
That's right.
Let's see.
So yeah, so from now on, if anybody wants a pointer, just take a bunch of balloons and cut them loose right over
Oh,
your
geez.
property that you're gonna hunt.
Yeah, we
So man, I ease in there, and he's not far right inside the timber there. Like I said, he went through a little clearing that's about a 20-yard little patch of kind of little openness with some about chest high grass, and he cut through there and cut right in the timber, and he was piled up right there under a cedar tree, of all things.
yeah, as
No,
as per
there's a lot
usual
of
around where
cedars.
I'm at, man, them things will hide
Yeah,
in them
no,
now.
Yeah, no,
Goodness.
he was there at a cedar. It wasn't a real thick cedar, but I mean, he was right there at the base of a cedar tree, kind of laying there, and you could tell he thrashed. You know, he wasn't laying normal like he laid down or
Yeah.
something. It was a complete wreck when he went out. But
Yeah.
that's what that blowing was
Yeah.
because I'd find spots of like big blood, and just you could just tell it was like he was blowing blood,
Absolutely.
and trying to breathe. And man, when my light hit him, and all that's on the video, you know, I just paused. I just paused and kind of stared at him for a little bit. I could see that, that one side sticking up, and I knew he was a pretty good deer. And I just thought to myself, man, like, I gave praise to God because,
Absolutely.
uh, we hunt so hard and we sacrifice so much with our families and time, and a lot of times we fail way more than we do succeed. So,
Absolutely.
so I just kind of sat there and had a moment for a second before I walked up
Oh,
on him, and man, I walked up on him, and the first thing I want to do is, kind of see where I hit him,
yeah.
because I was second guessing myself, and man, I made a really good shot of just kind of, at the angle. He was probably about 12 yards away from me, and I was probably, I'd say about 17 or 18 foot up,
Okay.
and so it was a pretty steep shot, and I hit him probably about 8 or 10 inches back behind the shoulder, but it was at a high angle, and it came out right behind that opposite, elbow, and just put a humongous drain hole on him,
Heard him. Yeah.
and that's why I had such a great blood trail. And yeah, man. So then, then lucky for me, like I said, I wasn't a long ways back there, so I found him and just kind of took a few pictures and did a little video and stuff like that. And then I was like, all right, now it's time to get to work. And ended up going back to the truck. And lucky for me, I had a cart. I've never packed a deer out on my back.
Yeah.
I'm not a giant man. I'm, 5'6" and weigh like
Right.
155 pounds. So like,
I'm as spoiled as it gets, man. Like, let me tell you. So we've got like four wheelers, Rangers. My uncle built a walk-in freezer. We got the electric winch. Like,
oh
I'm as
man.
spoiled as it gets. So don't feel bad.
So I always think to myself, like, I don't know if I could make it like on some of these public places if I had to
uh,
pack one out on my back.
that's what you got
I
friends
don't
for.
know. Yeah, man, they'd have to help me. So I, go back to the truck and actually pull the truck, as far as I can that direction and get my cart out. But it was still a stretch to get in there, man. Like,
Sure.
and the little hog trails and stuff that I went through were just thick briars, man. I mean, like, if there was any deer left in the woods, they were gone after I went through
Uh-huh.
there, dragging that cart through
Yep.
there. And, I'm pretty sure I said a couple of cuss words, just getting tangled up, falling down and
Yeah.
tripping over the cart. And anyways, I get in there to them and I go ahead and gut them and the treacherous trek back. And, like I said, through all those briars and just, I would get going in some places and it would just get thicker and thicker and worse. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to keep going this way. I can't keep going this way. Now I have to go back out of this crap that I've been fighting for the last 20 minutes. And I would turn around and go back and try a different
Oh,
route,
Lord.
looking at my maps, but your maps don't show you all these
Nope.
briars and crap under the
Nope.
trees. It's like,
Looks good on that aerial, on that satellite image. You're like, "Oh, sure, I can just
yeah,
jump out
no,
right over there in that
yeah,
open field." Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
get face level
Yeah,
with it. And so, yeah, man, I got back to the truck and loaded them up and of course with the got the kiddos and stuff at the house, and
that's it.
and so got them to come check it out, and they were pretty excited about it, man.
Yeah.
So
And
it was a neat experience.
after all that, you would do it again too, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah,
In a
100%,
heartbeat.
man. That's part of the reward, right? It
Yeah, yeah.
makes you feel like you earned it. And
Got to tell, but just as classic of a nice 10 point as you could
yeah,
ask
yeah,
for, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And I don't know what you think. what he ages, but I mean, he's a mature deer. Great looking deer in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm no expert, but
I,
I think he looks good and mature and
yeah, he was a decent deer. That's another thing I'm trying to get better at is aging deer. But I'm gonna tell you right now, my hat's off to those guys that can really put it down on big bodied mature deer.
oh yeah.
And maybe it's some of the circumstances and terrain, and maybe it's the intel that they have to
Yeah.
suspect. But like this for me was a completely blind. I had no idea that deer existed. I had no
Well,
idea that deer was going to be in that area. And when it's like that,
yeah.
I
And
didn't have time to check him out and see
no,
where he
and I
was. And
don't mention it even to remotely. I'll shoot the first. I mean, I did. I'll shoot the first 3-year-old who walks in front of me. Don't
and
get it twisted. You know what I mean? And I'm just saying that he's an excellent deer and he looks
yeah,
awesome. And I don't know if you're into the scores or any of that situation,
I'm
but
I'm not, and I suck at scoring. And I'll tell you what, man. In some of my previous videos and stuff, and just pictures and stuff I got on my phone, I think I'm very unrealistic on what a big deer looks like. And I've seen some,
yeah.
you know, you just go to a hunting show and you hold somebody's 180-inch rack. And for me, I don't know if I have unrealistic expectations or my judgment's off, but somebody will hand me a 180-inch rack and I'm thinking, that's not a big deer. Like
Oh God,
when you see them, I don't know.
I don't need
I
you to
mean, it
hold
is a
it.
big deer.
I don't need you to get around
It,
any of my deer then, because
it is a,
I
it,
personally think that 150-inch deer. I think that number gets thrown around a lot. People, I think, don't
that's a big
realize how
deer.
big of a deer a 150-inch
That's
deer
a
is.
that's a
It's a
big
good
deer.
deer.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I know that inch wise, and
Hmm.
I think I watch a lot of really big deer walk by because I'm
Don't
when I
do
see
that.
them, I just don't feel like they're big, and
Don't do that. Start shooting
sometimes
them.
yeah, yeah, and no, and that's kind of what I did with this deer, right? Like
Yeah.
I seen he had good horn on his head. He wasn't no little deer.
Yeah.
I heard him come down the hill. I knew he was a bigger deer.
Yeah.
The way he come in, the timing, and I
Mm.
just knew like, okay, this is a bigger deer. You can see the horn on their head, and
No.
I know when you see a good deer, but for some reason I just, man, I sometimes deer will walk away, and I'm thinking that was a really big deer I
Oh
just
man,
watched
what
for
I do?
30 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, and, it just I don't know, sometimes I just maybe I expect them to be like look like elk or something, like they're the size of a horse, and I don't know if it's the perception from being up in a tree or what it is, because when you see pictures of them from a game cam at eye level,
They
yeah, they're
look big.
humongous,
Yep. Look
you
big.
know,
Yeah.
and,
Especially,
well, you're
I think. Well, I feel like sometimes there's a big difference in the daytime photos and nighttime photos. You can have the
oh,
same
yeah, yeah,
deer, and
yeah.
maybe it's hit and miss on which way it goes. But I feel like you can have the same deer, and you're like, this doesn't look as big this one, to where then like you might get a daytime photo of him, and he looks like a monster. You know what I mean? So,
Oh, yeah, for
but
sure. And
yeah,
anytime you get a picture of a deer from the back,
yeah, absolutely,
straight forward or
yeah,
straight from the back,
yeah,
they just look humongous,
yeah, absolutely.
And so yeah, but when I seen that those horns on that deer, I knew it was a pretty decent deer.
No,
And
yeah,
like I
he's
said, with that property, I have no intel. I had no plan, you know, and I don't want to sound like if I don't shoot them, the neighbors will. Like that wasn't what I was thinking, but like.
hmm
Um, those deer get quite a bit of pressure in that area. So,
yeah.
um,
No, you
I
made the
know
good
it's,
call on that one. Like I said, you got to shoot that deer all day. That's an excellent deer. And like I said,
yeah.
I hope everybody goes and goes back and revisits your post. And I actually, talking to you, I didn't realize the link to the YouTube was at the bottom of like
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
description. So I went through the
Hmm.
photos. I saw the photos, and then you were like, "Oh, I got it on film," and I was like, "You did?" But it's in there. It's in the bottom. And
Yeah,
man,
no, for
everybody needs to go
sure.
check that out and watch it, because, like I said, it's a sweet little video. Great editing. It's fun. Uh, like I
And let
said,
me,
the shot, man. Like I said, I was just impressed. I was like, golly, and I did. Like I said, you maybe didn't realize it was as tight as what you thought,
I
but
didn't,
dude,
no.
put
Yeah,
it
it
through
was
there,
an
put it
incredible
through there.
shot. I really did. I
Oh,
really did. I made a great
dude,
shot. Everything worked out perfect,
dude.
and I'm really excited about it, man. I'm by no means a professional hunter. Don't think I'm like a Bobby Worthington or
Yeah,
any
yeah.
of these guys. Uh, so
No,
I,
excellent,
but I
excellent,
do
dude.
enjoy it, man. I'm steadily learning. Like I said, I'm 43 years old, if I can get another 20 years of this and have fun doing it, man, I'd say I live life the way I wanted to,
There
man,
you
and that's the
go.
plan.
There you go.
That's the
Oh,
plan. So 20 years of if I can just keep getting better, man, maybe I'll get a deer that I can hold and be like, man, this is a big one
yeah, this is
finally.
actually a big one. That's awesome. Well, dude,
Yeah, for sure.
congratulations, man. Really,
Yeah, thanks.
excellent deer, man. And
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about your equipment that you're using.
Yeah,
I
no.
personally, I just love bow hunting. I'm same way as you. I haven't gun hunted since like 2014 ish. I love bow hunting, and I haven't. I just I'm a nerd about it at times. I think my friends get tired of me at times, and all the things. But I'm interested in what people shoot, what bow, what their draw weight is, what their arrow weight is, what broadheads they were shooting, you know. So if you can, just give us a little
Yeah,
rundown.
no, for sure. So I've actually got a couple bows I shoot, but one in
Mhm.
particular I was using that night was my Matthews VXR, and it's 28-inch axle to axle. I'm a small
Yeah,
guy, so I like the short, compact
sure.
bows, and I shoot 75 pounds.
Okay.
Um, Probably a little more than what I need for me,
Yeah.
but I, I,
If you
I
can
I
do it,
draw
it's
easy.
worth it.
I draw easily. I can hold that
That's
sucker all
cool.
day long. I have no, problems with that. I have a very short draw length. I have a 26.5-inch draw length, so I have to buy,
Okay.
it's like,
That's
hey,
pretty short.
I can almost get two arrows out of one
Oh
full
shoot.
shaft.
Man,
So yeah, I can just buy 6 arrows and get a whole dozen
that's
almost.
funny.
So yeah, I shoot 26.5-inch draw length. And last year I switched over to the ultra arrows
Okay.
just because that was kind of the hot thing.
Yeah,
I've kind
someone
of
else I
shot
talked
up.
to recently was shooting ultras, and or maybe someone Trey talked to on one of these. They were shooting some
Yeah,
ultras.
I
Yeah,
enjoy them. I like them.
like them. Okay,
Prior to that, yeah, I love them. Prior to that, I shot black eagles, and
okay,
man, like I said, I shoot a lot of pigs, and
yeah,
black eagles are pretty tough arrows.
yeah,
If you shoot pigs, you're gonna
absolutely,
lose a lot of arrows, and you're gonna break a
absolutely.
lot of arrows. And
Yeah,
black eagles are really tough.
cool.
But these ultras, man, are right there with them. I like them. I like the fact that they're no spine technology. I don't nerd out into that stuff a whole lot,
Okay,
but it's I like them. That I seem to get consistent flight out of them,
yeah,
and they're topped with I got tack vanes, shoot the tack drivers, 2.75s, I think it is,
yeah,
and then my total arrow weight on these arrows, I kind of went with the heavy route
yeah.
with this bow for close range stuff with the big broadhead. I shoot a Grim Reaper 150 grain 3 blade expandable. Um, it's actually a crossbow broadhead because they don't make 150 grain in that style, but for a crossbow, but they work perfect.
Oh, so you're not waiting the insert. You're using that heavy of a broadhead itself.
Yeah, yeah, I'm using a 150
Okay.
grain head,
Wow. Okay.
and I've got a 50 grain insert uh, that I use. So I've got 200 grains up front on a little
Wow. Okay.
bitty
Yeah, that's
on a
heavy.
little bitty dart, and
Yeah.
so I heavy. I got a lot of front and center
Yeah.
on that arrow. I
Yeah.
don't know. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's pretty heavy up front,
Okay.
and um, and the whole intention on that was to for close quarter. Um, Shooting at steep angles,
Yeah.
stuff like that, in tight spaces like
Uh
that.
huh.
My other bow, I got set up with lighter arrows, for hunting field edges or late season, when you're out on those
Yeah.
little more open, little less coverage with timber and stuff like that. So I've got kind of a couple different setups for different, scenarios.
Right on. Did you
And
say what your total arrow weight was?
about 480
About
grains.
480. Ooh, dude, that's a short arrow to get that much weight on them.
Yeah, and it zips at 271 feet per second,
Really?
I think.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
guess
it's
what's
still
saving you
moving.
is shooting over 70. I shoot right
Yeah,
at 70 ish, but if you're pushing over it, that's what's helping you out with that draw length.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. You almost have to,
Absolutely.
right, to get that kind of speed.
Yeah.
I'm thinking next year I may take it back down and just change my head weight and probably go to a 100 grain head just to
Yeah.
just to give me a little more speed on that bow. It's
Yeah.
got plenty of thump. Everything I hit with, especially like I said, shooting pigs is a good rule of thumb, for judgment
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
measure your penetration and stuff. And man, that bow just thumps. Nothing
Absolutely.
nothing hardly ever stops it.
That's
I
awesome.
actually I'll purposefully shoot pigs in the shoulder, with that
Yeah.
big expandable just to see what kind of damage it does. And man, it
That's
blows
awesome.
through them,
Huh.
breaks shoulders. So it's pretty cool. I'm not a big arrow guy, a heavy arrow guy, but for close quarters, you're going to shoot 20 yards and in, man,
Yeah.
sling a brick at them. Sling a
Yeah.
brick at them. And
Yeah.
that way too, if you hit a limb, maybe it'll help a little bit.
Absolutely.
it, lucky for me, it didn't hit a limb the other night, but that was, it might have helped if I did.
You never
And
know. Could have been
so
it.
yeah, that's what I shoot. Like I said, small draw length, heavyweight. I love that
That's
bow, man. I bought it in 2019, I think, when the VXR come out, and I hadn't had a new bow in almost 20 years prior to that.
yeah.
I
See.
actually had I actually had a PSE Stingray was the bow I shot up until I bought that VXR, and
Yeah.
that was the first brand new bow I had ever bought from my buddy Tim at the archery shop.
Sure.
And I shot that bow for 20 years, and I killed a ton of animals with that
No.
PSE
It's a good.
Stingray. And then one of the Matthews, I seen these short, compact, fast bows. I'm thinking, man, that's what I want. And
Yeah.
got that VXR, and then I've got a V3 as well. Like I said, it's set up with a little lighter setup, and so try to get some
Yeah.
range out of that if I can. So
Sure.
um, as far as like I shoot a thumb release,
Hmm.
uh, true ball rave thumb release, just kind of a generic plain Jane thumb release.
Yeah.
I've always been a wrist index finger guy, and always shot a Scott Little Goose. So I wanted to switch up to gain more accuracy and more
Yeah.
control of my of my shooting stance. So
And it
I
can help,
switched to
man.
thumb release.
Yeah, them thumb buttons, man, they can. I'm not saying for everybody, and I'm no
Well,
expert, but
yeah, and
they
and
can
if
help
if
some target panic and things like that. Because, like I
they
said,
do
growing up, shooting guns or whatever, and you always using your trigger finger there,
punch, that's
man.
right.
I was bad, and I'm not saying I still don't get some target panic at times because I definitely do. But it's definitely helped me out a lot. And so, I mean, if you can get your hands on one and try one out and mess around with it in the backyard,
Yeah,
if you're
and they're a
struggling,
little. Yeah, and they're a little intimidating and
they
and
are,
kind of at
they are.
first, right? Because
Yep,
it's completely different. You think
absolutely.
you're going to let go of that sucker, like it's not strapped to you. You're holding it in your hand, and
Yeah,
and you don't know how to hold your hand, and you're afraid you're going to hit your face with it. And so there's a little bit of gun shyness that can come from just that, just using it.
sure.
But once you get comfortable with it, man, it's awesome.
Yeah, they're
And then
awesome.
so yeah, I shoot a vapor trail rest for years on that PSE, man. I shot a whisker biscuit, and
Yep.
everybody made fun of me, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I would take your money on a shoot with that whisker biscuit. I don't,
Uh,
you can say whatever you want to. I'd have, just uh I shot gold tips forever, just whatever the shop had, generic gold tip hunters or whatever it was.
well,
And
the whisker biscuit, same. My uncle, he still shoots that whisker biscuit. The biggest thing about the whisker biscuit or a contained, a steady containment or whatever you want to call it, something that makes contact
uh-huh,
all the way through. You're basically what people don't realize. You're getting rid of your brace height. You're getting no
yes,
forgiveness because anytime you do anything, that arrow is still in the bow. Where a drop away, it's might be through the bow, but it's away
instant.
from it. And
That's right.
so,
You're not getting
so
no
you
torque or
know,
anything, if you
yeah,
screw up.
exactly.
That's right.
So, that's
But
the biggest drawback to those things. But and
yeah,
speed, I guess, whatever. But
yeah.
you
And
know,
they're heck on veins, man.
absolutely,
I
absolutely.
never realized. I just thought that was
Yeah,
normal, having to
absolutely.
refletch arrows every, couple of weeks. But yeah,
Yeah,
now I said shoot the vapor trail, drop away. I'm not a big, oh, this is the best or that's the best.
yeah,
I'm very particular as to what I like as
yeah.
far as
What's
what
working?
suits me. Yeah,
Absolutely,
and what suits me. I don't jump
absolutely.
on the bandwagons of what everybody's got or anything like that. Like I'm real particular about like, how does it look, or
Mhm.
stuff like that. I'm just kind of picky,
Absolutely.
and I don't
Cool.
budge for anybody. A lot of times I'll buy stuff and I'll modify it to fit me. I'll just find whatever's closest to what I like,
Sure.
and then I do my own modifications.
Right on.
So, so with my saddle and stuff, like I said, I've bought a couple of Amazon saddles when I first
Hmm.
bought a saddle. Um, and I still use them. That's what I use when I go scout in the summertime. One of them's like a really small, looks like maybe it's kind of a copycat of maybe like Tether's first little saddle. It's mesh and, I got a
Yeah.
little bitty butt, so it fits my little butt perfect, but it's like a little baby diaper.
Yeah.
And, so in the summertime, it's lightweight. It
Yeah.
weighs nothing. It's like I can almost crumple it up and put it in my pant pocket. And
Sure.
so that's what I wear. And, I'll carry one stick with me and hang cameras and get up in trees to see what my vantage point is. And, in the summertime, so
That's a
I
good
still use
tip.
that little
Yeah.
saddle. Yeah,
Yeah.
I use that little saddle and I really like it. And, but currently I use the latitude method too.
Okay.
And
Sweet.
again, you know, um, the three had already come out. Uh, and, my big deal is I don't like padding. Like I
Oh.
said, I'm
Okay.
very, very
Yeah.
particular. Uh, Texas and Oklahoma's hot. It's
Yep.
hot until last week.
Absolutely. Yep.
Last week was our first cold front.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, that buck was 2 days before Thanksgiving, and I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt and
I
video.
noticed
Right
that. Yep.
now, I had a
Absolutely.
hoodie on. I had a hoodie on there that evening, but I mean, like, I was kind of warm actually.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
didn't want it. I didn't want to get cold when the sun went down.
Yep.
So I had the hoodie on, and I was kind of warm. And then when it was time to go find that deer, I just took my hoodie off and had a short sleeve shirt on. So it's
Heck
if
yeah.
you're wearing heavy backpack or a big hefty saddle, like those things get hot.
So I've
And
never
so I
messed
could
with the. Sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead. And that's one thing. Like I could see the Latitude 3 being really good for a wintertime saddle for myself,
Yeah.
just because of all the padding and stuff like that. And I'm sure it's extremely comfortable. I sat in one. They're really comfortable. And a lot of saddles are like that, but I'm just not big, like I said, on the padding stuff. I don't want to
Yeah.
be hot. I don't
Yeah.
want to be sweaty. I hate having a backpack with these big heavy straps. I just almost want like one of those little, what do the kids carry, the shoe bag with two shoestrings,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
they carry their
Yeah.
football shoes in.
Yep.
I wish I could just
Little
have
draw
something like that.
bags.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be more my style.
So
And
the latitude too is it's like a mesh panel, like similar to like this buzzard roost here.
yes, yeah, yeah.
I
It's
got
just a
you.
mesh panel. It's two panel. Um, for me, it fits really well. It's two panel, but the way it sits, I can kind of it attaches with three magnets, one on each hip,
Hmm.
and then one right in the center of the back. Um,
Nice.
and like I said, I'm got a small waist, to wear like a 32 pant size
Yeah.
and little bitty butt, so I can pull that middle magnet loose and let the two hip magnets kind of hinge, and it
Hmm.
just kind of catches the bottom of my butt. I don't have to actually pop the whole second. If I pop the whole second panel off, it comes like underneath my knees. You know what I mean? So
I see.
if I want to, I can set one part of it up kind of in my back like a back strap, and the other
Yeah.
part right under my butt. So it
Nice.
works really great for me. It fits me well.
Heck yeah.
And I run a Latitude profile platform. Um, I'm really big on stuff fitting, and when I pack my bags and stuff, I'm really meticulous about how everything fits, and if everything's got a place. And if it
Yeah.
don't fit right, I'm modifying stuff, right? So that Latitude platform really fit my needs as far as it folding in flat. The price point's awesome on that thing, so it's just like it fit everything that I wanted
Perfect.
in the platform, and it works really good. A lot of some people complain about it making noises and stuff like that. I haven't experienced that, and it works really good for me. Fits in my pack that I use, and I bought a pack from Academy, just a Magellan pack, and man,
Yep.
I've sewed straps to it and cut pockets out, and
There
I
you
mean,
go.
it's got stuff sewn to it to fit my needs, right? Because, like I said,
Absolutely.
I want my grunt call on this side and this and that. Everything's set up just perfect,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that Latitude platform fits perfect in the little pouch that it's got, and then man, I'm like I said, I'm not trying to promote anybody.
No, you're
My
good.
sticks that my sticks that I use are the tree sticks, and the first set of sticks I ever bought was the uh, XOP X2s,
Hmm.
and those things bite like great white sharks, man. Um, you don't even need a rope. You can just
Yeah.
slap them on a tree and they're stuck. I
Yeah.
mean, they stick to a tree. But my biggest thing was metal, man. And I used my mind went blank, but I used the steel strips on those
Okay.
sticks to try to quiet them down,
Yeah.
and it did quiet them down a whole bunch, right? And maybe I'm just a little, well, like where we hunt, man, is thick.
Absolutely.
You're not going to walk through the woods and not get tangled up in
Yeah.
briars. You're not going to
Absolutely.
brush up against, little scrubs and trees. And man, that's what really kind of turned me off on the metal sticks was walking through and a vine or something kind of rub up against them when you're squeezing through a
Yep.
spot. And it's like bling, 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 bling. Sounds like Santa
It
Claus with
doesn't
his
take
reindeer.
much. Yep. It
It
does not
don't.
take much.
And that's an
No.
unnatural sound. And,
Absolutely.
and sound travels when you're in the quiet dead woods, especially in the morning or
Yeah.
night.
Absolutely.
That's they're going to hear you from 300, 400 yards away, no problem.
Yep.
So, so when I seen the tree sticks, I was like, oh, okay, here's a carbon stick. And then, man, started watching reviews on them and stuff like that. And I'm going to tell you right now, um, that is it. I feel like I'm cheating using those sticks. I mean, for one, they're quiet. They're lightweight, and weight's not a big deal for me. I'm not.
Yeah. Same.
I mean, that's why I tell people all the time when they start talking about weight, and I'm like, so do you like evaporate the deer when you carry them out of the woods?
Yeah.
Like you're gonna grab about 2 pounds going a mile back. Okay, so what are you gonna do when you kill something?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
My and I'm not trying to be this guy either by no means, but, that's why I try to stay in shape and lift weights and do
Oh
things. Like,
yeah,
I
no,
think
you
I
got
can
to.
handle a pound or 2 off of a climbing stick. I'll be okay. I don't
Yeah,
worry
no, for
about too
sure. So,
much.
so the weight's not like something that was a buying point for me.
Yeah.
Pound or two is not going to make a difference for me. But they're super lightweight, man. Like you
Yeah,
don't even feel them there at
that's
all.
awesome.
And they're robust, man. For being a carbon plastic stick or whatever they're made out of, polymer,
Yeah,
they are extremely durable and they bite good. And the the attachment method is just so simple. Taking them down is so simple. So I
nice.
really, really enjoy those sticks, man. And yeah, that's kind of my
Yeah.
setup, man.
Oh, that's a heck of a setup. Like I said, that gives the people a good idea of maybe to check some different things out. And like I said, I don't know much about the latitude, so maybe someone else listening can say, oh, okay, well, maybe I want to look into those two options or what the differences of them are, that kind of thing. But well, what is I'll kind of close with this a little bit. What's something that you've learned as far as in the saddle hunting realm, or some advice, someone that's getting going, what's something you would tell them, um, you know, like I said, just some advice you would give a new guy that's trying to get into it a little bit.
So I'll tell you what I experienced.
Okay.
Uh, and now I'm starting to get to a point to where I'm confident. But in
Hmm.
the beginning, it's an ass whooping, point blank.
Yeah,
You will
it
be
can be
so frustrated.
100%.
I see so many guys selling their setup. You
Absolutely, that's
know,
true. Very true.
um, don't give up. And practice. I never practiced. The first time I grabbed my saddle, I pulled it out of the back seat of my truck with these loud clanging metal sticks, and it taught me so much. And I still seen deer, still had deer
Yeah,
walk under me that first time. And that doesn't mean if you use a saddle you're gonna have deer walk under you, but I mean it gives you the opportunity to walk in and set up anywhere and make those adjustments. So
absolutely.
if I could give you any piece of advice, for one, you have to be safe.
There you go.
Don't
That's the best
you
one.
have to tie off. You
Yep.
have to tie off, right? So make sure you got your ropes. Don't cheap out on ropes or
There you
equipment
go. Yep.
because, man, just the other day there was somebody's sewn eye come apart on a brand new rope, but I think he bought it off Amazon or something
Yeah.
like that, and it come
Yeah.
apart and he fell. And so don't cheap out on your ropes. Do your research, reach out to these groups, see what everybody's using, see what everybody recommends. If I could recommend Greg Staggs in the Wild,
Hmm.
that dude's got a video on putting together your own ropes.
Yep.
Tells you exactly what to order, tells you exactly what length, tells you how many inches you need for this knot, and walks you through it step by step.
There you
And
go.
that was some of the first ropes that I made because the first ropes I got with my saddles were like horse leashes,
Sure.
and I didn't like that. You needed a
Yeah.
backpack just to carry your ropes, and
Yeah.
so yeah, you watch that Greg Stacks video, and that right there. you'd be set with your ropes, you know.
No, no.
Um,
That's the
so
best
don't cheap out on
advice.
your ropes.
Absolutely. And that's the best advice. You can have, regardless hunting, regardless killing the deer. All of us, at some way, shape, or form, you have somebody that cares about you, that wants you to make it back safe. So do yourself a favor, do them a favor, and take care of yourself. And like I said, inspect your equipment. There's always going to be mitigated risk, 100% in what we do, but do your
Oh
best to
yeah.
eliminate it, and stay safe. And then we can keep doing all this stuff that we love doing. And killing big deer, and doing like what you did, and have this conversation. And man, I
Yeah, and
appreciate you.
take your time with it, right? Like it's
Absolutely.
frustrating. Just like with the camera stuff, the saddle stuff's the same way. And
Same.
the first time you do it, you're gonna fumble, you're gonna make noise, you're gonna drop
Absolutely.
stuff, you're gonna clean stuff. Keep going. Don't
Absolutely.
stop.
Absolutely.
Climb, get up there, sit down, enjoy your stay, you know.
Absolutely.
And same thing with the camera thing. If you're getting into filming, it's frustrating. Do it and stick to it, man, and it'll pay off. It paid off for
Absolutely.
me. This was my
There you
first
go.
successful saddle hunt on film where I actually got the shot.
Absolutely. Well, Miguel, I appreciate you hopping on here. Do us a favor
Yeah,
real quick.
thanks for having me.
What's your no problem, man. What is drop your YouTube channel. Let everybody go check it out.
So keep them outdoors, KEEPEM outdoors. And like I said, it's really small. There's only a handful of videos on there, but you
Don't
get to
matter.
meet my kids on the videos,
Sweet.
and we have a lot of fun doing it. So yeah, go check them out, man.
Yeah, go check them out. Well, man, like I said, congratulations, man. I appreciate you being on
Thanks.
here. And I know we'll keep in touch, and I'm gonna holler at you
Oh,
when we
for
get off
sure.
here. And I don't know what other tags you got left for the season, if you're gonna get the kiddos on any, but
We're gonna try.
I wish the best of luck to you. And like I said, I just want to say thanks to everyone for tuning in. Like I said, this stuff really helps us out, and we enjoy doing it. And so we hope y'all are enjoying it. And we'll just sign off with that. But
All
appreciate y'all.
right, man. Hey,
All right, man.
thanks.
You bet. Have a good
All
one.
right, bye.